Excuse me, NASA. NASA. Excuse me. Is it time? Good evening, South Windsor, and welcome to the South Windsor Town Council regular meeting of December 19th at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining us this evening. For the students that are here joining us this evening, there's agendas in the back, and I will sign them after the meeting if you're still here, and we can do the picture. Just calling the meeting to order, we're going to do a Pledge of Allegiance now, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The mayor's remarks this evening are happy holidays to everybody. I said that at the last meeting. For some reason, I lost a week in December and I was already past Christmas. So I want to wish happy holidays to everyone in South Windsor. What? Roll call. Sorry, roll call first. Sorry, see, I'm already jumping ahead. Roll call, please.
Councillor Evans. Here. Councillor Kowalski.
Here.
Councillor Lopez.
Here.
Councillor Paterna.
Here.
Mayor Pendleton.
Present.
Deputy Mayor King. Councillor Kozakowski.
Here.
Councillor Leidecker. Here. Councillor Gamble.
Here.
Thank you. Now I can discuss holidays, right? All right, thanks. So I just want to wish everyone happy holidays in the town of South Windsor. I would like to say a few things, though. South Windsor has a lot of spirit. South Windsor has a lot of heart. And South Windsor residents have been there for Wreaths Across America, excuse me, that we just enjoyed this past Saturday to honor the veterans that are buried within our community with wreaths to acknowledge them around the holiday time. We've been doing it for 12 years. And it's only got bigger and better with the major donations that have come in to help purchase the wreaths to go on the veteran cemeteries. I was completely honored by a young man who was a Boy Scout who went down to the cemetery on Main Street for my dad and stood there and saluted my dad after he placed a wreath. So it is something and you say the person's name so you don't forget who they are. And I want to thank the American Legion for doing that and all the donors and for organizing it and all the donors in South Windsor that have contributed to that. I'd also like to wish a very, very happy holidays to everyone, however you celebrate, whatever holiday you celebrate, and a very, very happy new year. And this is our last meeting of 2022, and we will be going into 2023 with fresh eyes, open minds, and a lot of goals and a lot of ambitions. So it's going to be a fun year for us coming up. So we'll move on now to Councillor Leidecker, please, adoption of the minutes.
Move to adopt the agenda as is.
Are there any changes, deletions, corrections in the agenda? Not hearing any or seeing any? Second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Communications and reports from the town manager, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of our health department director, the state of Connecticut has made it very clear they want an agreement for services entered into between the town of South Windsor and the town of Windsor to offer support to our department until our acting director is eligible to be named the permanent director sometime in the summer. I've shared a few revisions back and forth with my counterpart in the town of Windsor, and I'm hopeful to report to you at the next meeting that we can sign that agreement and move forward. In terms of their town hall hours, on August 12th, 2020, the town management group changed their hours to allow the town hall to be open 50 hours a week to meet the needs better of residents working from home and challenged throughout the pandemic. With the pandemic having moved into a different stage, the town management has received formal requests from 2 of our collective bargaining units that they'd like to move their hours to the same hours as the management staff, which is Monday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Friday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. All staff would still be required to work 37.5 hours, and if approved by the council, we could plan the change to provide plenty of notice for the public so everyone understands the new building hours. Many of the surrounding towns have gone to different schedules like this, or even 4-day work weeks. I firmly believe this would be a significant morale builder for current staff and will most likely be helpful with the recruitment in the future, and as a result, I will be favorably recommending this change. I'll be asking to have a resolution for the council to consider at its next meeting. And lastly, I wanted to take a moment and wish all the council and residents a happy holiday, no matter what they may believe or celebrate. I also wanted to recognize the staff and volunteers who will be working over this holiday season. They'll be missing time with their family and friends so that we can all be safe and happy in South Windsor. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Maniscalco? Councilor Kabowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not a question, just a comment. Tonight, before the meeting, I read the email holding the audit opinion and the audited financials. I haven't gone through all the financials yet, but I did read the governance communication. It came back totally clean, which is very impressive. So I want to commend Patty Perry on the work that she did for that. Having to deal with auditors every year, I know they come in looking for something to at least nitpick, and this one had nothing. So I just wanted to say congratulations and thanks for all the work that went into that.
Thank you, and I'll pass that along to the Finance Department.
Absolutely. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Maniscalco, I'd like to address something with you, if we could, please. We received an email last week, I believe on Wednesday or Thursday, about the civility pledge. Each one of us council members has that in front of us this evening, and that came from CCM, correct?
Correct.
And if you could explain a little bit about this document that's sitting here in front of us, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. So there were a few articles actually in the newspaper over the last couple weeks that came out from CCM. CCM put together this pledge and has sent it off to all of their towns within the state of Connecticut, so all 169. And essentially, they've identified that there's been a significant amount of less than productive discourse within many of our municipalities, and there's been a significant lack of civility across a lot of our communities as we've made our way through a lot of challenging times over the last few years. So what they wanted to have done was see if they could get as many elected and appointed officials as possible to sign on to the civility pledge, and they're posting the pledge online on their website for people to see. I think there's about 92 individuals at this point that have already signed on. I did provide this pledge to all of the department heads at our last department head meeting, and every single one of our department heads signed on to it. Myself, as well as our 2 assistant town managers, have also signed on to it, and we wanted to provide it to all of you in the event that you would be interested as well. I don't know if the mayor would like me to read it
Please,
for the
Mr.
public, so that way
Maniscalco.
everybody kind of has an understanding. So it says, I pledge to build a stronger and more prosperous community by advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of my town or city.
Mr. Maniscalco, where it says of my town or city, is there any way that we could change this pledge for the betterment of South Windsor? Can we change it to that, or just leave it the way that it is?
Well, I mean, this is CCM's pledge,
Okay.
so we
Leave it
would
the
be
way that it
turning it
is.
into them. I don't know if they would accept that or not at this point.
Well, thank you for getting your staff to do that, and I'm signing mine right now. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Paterna.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pendleton. Mr. Maniscalco, just a question to make sure everybody understands who CCM is. This is the Conference of Connecticut Municipalities, and we're a member of that group.
Correct. So they actually do represent all 169 municipalities within the state of Connecticut. And all towns have the option to be a member. So it's not a mandatory membership, it's an
Right.
option.
Okay, so this is they're advocating for this
Correct.
position, this pledge. Thank you.
And after looking at this, I've come up with something that I would like to read. And that is to start off the new year with, this kind of motivated me a little bit, but I also came up with something a while back that I thought would be good for 2023. And that's a Citizens Community Engagement Initiative for the betterment of South Windsor, creating positive change. Over the past few years, our world, our country, our state, and even our town has experienced changes that put life into perspective. Many of these changes have affected our town in a positive way by enriching the spirit of South Windsor through fostering compassion and support. We have joined together as a stronger community. We supported our food and fuel bank. We supported our children with their sports and schools. We have supported our veterans. We are an amazing community, and we step up when we need to. The reality is some residents have felt the positive changes in their lives, while others have not. Some families within our community have had a difficult time with the changes that are occurring, which could be negatively impacting the whole family. Fortunately, here in South Windsor, we have the ability to help all residents who may need it, from families to adults or individual children. As always, services are offered to any one of our residents who may need them. In addition to services already being offered to our residents, there may be other programs, classes, or speakers that could be facilitated by our Human Services Department, Park and Recs Department, Police Department, or school system. Creating the Citizens Community Engagement Initiative will offer the opportunity for anyone within the borders of South Windsor to participate in various programs that could positively affect them or someone they know, which in turn will positively affect our town and community as a whole. There's a variety of ways someone can enrich their lives for the better, from individual help to civic group participation or becoming an active member on the government side of things. All these opportunities open doors to positive changes within our town. The first step to creating positive change is to have our elected officials, board and commission members, and employees of our community sign the civility pledge, which is what we just did this evening. And I'm asking all of you here, sitting here, to sign that civility pledge of CCM. And that is what Mr. Maniscalco had read to us. But I also challenge us as leaders of our community to create a Citizens Community Engagement Pledge for the town of South Windsor, for its residents, or anyone who would like to sign it. They could sign it, it could be on our webpage, it could be something that we could work on. I've only came up with a few suggestions, and that is, I pledge to respect myself and others and the differences that we may have. I pledge to foster a positive change in my life and our community. I pledge to engage within our community in a way that is in the best interests of South Windsor. And I ask all our council members sitting here to help us draw up a community pledge that folks within our community would be willing to sign on our town website. And if anyone has any comments or questions about that, I'd appreciate hearing from you. We can look at this at the next meeting. Bring your ideas, bring your suggestions. Everyone can get a copy of this. And I'm open to any ideas or suggestions you may have. Okay? Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Councilor Paterno, I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Pendleton. I think it's a great idea to have our town involved in a more specific way than just this. My question about this is, if we all sign this tonight, does it go to Mr. Maniscalco and back to CCM? Is that it?
Yes, it
Okay.
does. And it gets,
Yeah,
and we're
if
named.
you sign it and
Yep.
you want to just get it back to me, then we'll email them into CCM
Okay.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So should
Councilor
we all-
Evans?
Should we all sign it now, so as we're sitting here?
Absolutely, I did.
That'd be a good idea.
Absolutely. Wouldn't that be bad if I said I messed up and I need a new one? Yeah. But, yeah, I got this one. We have Steve's too. Is there any way that we could email it to Deputy Mayor King, so that way he can email it back with his signature on it? That would be fantastic. Amanda, do you want to collect these up, please? And give them to Mr. Maniscalco? Oh, got it. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Are we passing them down, or? Here you go. Thank you. Any other questions for the town manager? Not hearing any or seeing any, thank you. We'll be moving on. Public input for any items that are on the agenda. Is there any public input on any items on the agenda? Asking for a third time, is there any public input for items on the agenda? Not seeing anyone from the public, moving on to item number 8, adoption of minutes of previous meeting. Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Number 8, adoption of minutes of previous meeting, approval of December 5th, 2022 council meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular town council meeting of December 5th, 2022. Motion to approve.
Is there any discussion, changes, deletions? Councilor Evans.
If I may, on the second to last page, it'll give me an opportunity to bring up my revision and dates again for our meetings in the future. But I do believe the last, on the very first line, second line, on the second to last page, it says February, referring to when in the future we might discuss our meeting dates to set our calendar. And I believe Counselor Gamble's suggestion was November. Okay, so if we can change February to November on that page.
Welcome, I'm missing it. Where are you? We need these pages numbered.
It was around because
I
of
see
the
it.
new council would be seated.
I got it. Thank you. All those in favors of that change? Correction? Any opposed? Not hearing any? That motion carries. So now we'll go to the motion to approve the minutes as amended. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? The motion carries. Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, we have an abstention. Can we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Evans,
Yes?
Counselor Kubaski,
Yes.
Counselor Lopez,
Yes.
Counselor Paterna,
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King, Counselor Kozakowski,
Yes.
Counselor Leidecker, Counselor Gamble.
Yes.
What's the roll call count? 7-1? Thank you.
701.
701, thank you. Okay, thank you. So now we're moving on to communications from liaisons, officers, and boards directly to the council, responsible to the council. Does anyone have any? Counselor Evans?
Thank you. So the Park and Rec Commission met last Wednesday. They are beginning the work on their master plan and revisiting what the community would like to see in the master plan. They voted to create a subcommittee that will work on creating the survey alongside the Parks and Rec Department, and that they will bring it back to the commission to kind of move forward with that survey and creating it to send it out to the community so that they can really update and revitalize their master plan. Additionally, on the 12th, the Social Justice Racial Equity Commission met for the first time with all 5 commissioners present. It was a meeting to pass the calendar, so they'll be meeting on the second Monday of every month. And also, there was some discussion within the commission about how to move forward with membership. So I think we'll be discussing here as well as within that commission what that might look like in the future. I know that there's some questions out to the town attorney about it as well. So that is more information to come. At the next meeting, they decided to look at how to tackle the duties of the commission. So we'll be looking at the first couple duties listed. Also, I'm excited that the Art Commission will be able to schedule a meeting because as of tonight, after we pass our second reading, we will have a minimum quorum. So that commission will also begin to meet. So, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Evans. Counselor Kubaski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Public Building Commission meeting last week. A couple items of note to bring forward. During the superintendent's update, she encouraged everybody to, if you weren't able to attend the meeting where they had the enrollment projections, to possibly go back and watch it because it was very eye-opening. I have not yet, but I do plan on watching that.
I believe that's November 22nd meeting.
Yep. The Pleasant Valley School currently is still on budget and on time, which is also good news. The conversation later on in the meeting was regarding the sediment control at the pond on the site. There continues to be issues. The day after the meeting, Gilbane was going to be going in and digging out 4 additional feet from the sediment pond on the site to keep it from overflowing. But I also wanted to commend Chairman Montana during the meeting because he did give a little bit of a reprimand to Gilbane because when we had an issue recently where it overflowed, the town notified the construction company. They did not notify the town, and he did let them know that going forward, they need to notify us when there's an issue. It shouldn't be the other way around. So they're continuing to work with Langen on sediment control on the site, and they're trying to figure out how to stop this from happening.
Thank you, Counselor Kabowski. Mr. Maniscalco, are we going to get Mr. Folger involved on that again, please?
As Councilor Kabowski already said, he already is. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Any other reports? Counselor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to report that the Planning and Zoning Commission had a meeting last Tuesday where they sat down with the chosen consultants for the update of the Plan of Conservation Development. They had a discussion on kind of what is going to go into the plan and a review of the 2013 plan, the plan that we're currently under. And this was just a great kickoff to the 18-month journey that the town of South Windsor and the Planning and Zoning Commission is going to be embarking. So, good news.
That's great news. Good, thank you. May I ask Counselor Evans a question? Was there a end date for the Park and Rec Subcommittee to get back to the Park and Rec Committee, Commission on their recommendations for a survey?
The master plan one, or for the?
For the
strategic-
survey? You said they were going to create a subcommittee to come up with some questions and bring them back to the Planning and Zoning. Is that, did I hear that?
Not for planning and, are you talking about, so there's.
Park and Rec.
Okay, there's, yeah, because there was a question that night about the Park and Rec Commission contributing a couple questions that might be used in the strategic planning survey. But this would be a separate survey that the
Right.
Park and Rec is doing on their own. So no set deadline, but they did talk about when would they like to see it launched, so they can kind of work backward from there.
Okay.
The goal is that perhaps to have it through the summer months and through like the farmer's market, maybe put it in the catalog that goes out for the summer Park and Rec activities so that it can be accessible to the community. So I would think that by the mid-spring that we should be seeing that survey come to completion.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. I wasn't sure how long that would be. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Madam Mayor.
Any other questions? Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, you noted that there's going to be another survey for the Parks and Rec Commission. The Strategic Planning Committee is going to have a survey. The Planning and Zoning Commission with the Plan of Conservation Development are going to be having a survey, all probably in about the same time period. I'm just wondering, through the town manager, could we possibly find opportunities to consolidate or, have this public input endeavor to be as, efficient and not non-burdensome to our residences?
Yeah, I can try to look at it. I mean, they're all looking to accomplish very different things, so it's a little bit, it might be a little challenging, but I'll certainly take a look at it and see what we can do.
Yeah, so maybe if it's not even just, maybe it could be 3 different surveys, but maybe find efficiencies in distribution of them, maybe
Gotcha.
possibly.
Yeah, I mean, the strategic planning one I do know is gonna go out mostly electronic. So, there'll probably be some hard copies available possibly, but the goal is to do electronic as much as possible. I haven't heard what the plans are for distribution on the Park and Rec or POCD one yet, so.
Okay, thanks.
I think it's exciting that they're all coming out at the same time. You can get in survey mode and keep your eye out for that survey and then wrap it all up with a nice little bow. They're all done. I think that's great, a great plan. Thank you. And Councilor Evans?
I was just going to speak to the Park and Rec Commission survey, is that I know they're planning to do some focus groups as well, like they have done in the past. It's been a number of years since they've done that. And also look at doing it virtual as well as, at events where people could even maybe have a QR code and download it and complete it. I'm wondering if maybe there's some discussion between the 3 groups to timeline their surveys. So each group gets a couple months here and there, so maybe there isn't as much overlap. I know for the Park and Rec, there was a lot of discussion about, the 2 questions or so that might go on the strategic planning survey and then their own survey, why are they different? And really, the overall scope of the Park and Rec one is very Park and Rec focused, whereas the strategic planning one would help them get some input, but would all be integrated into the strategic plan more so than what the Park and Rec focuses on over their master plan, so.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Not hearing any? We'll be moving on to item number 11 for first reading. Counselor Gamble, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution appointing Paul Mazzucato as a member of the Patriotic Commission. Be it resolved that the town of South
No,
Windsor...
just read the dark part, that's all.
I'm sorry, what?
All you have to do is read the dark part.
No, well, it's not written in a consent agenda sort of fashion, so, okay.
Oh, no, you're right, it isn't.
So however you want me to do it, it's fine.
No, okay. Please read the whole paragraph then.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the town of South Windsor hereby appoints Paul Mazzucato as a member of the Patriotic Commission to fill the vacancy of Lee Lovering for a term ending December 31st, 2025, and postpones consideration of this motion until the town council's next regularly scheduled meeting.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any? The motion carries. Thank you, Counselor Gamble, for that. I didn't realize that. And now we're moving on to Counselor Paterna for the second readings, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the second reading, motion to approve items 11B1 through 11B12 as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? All those, any deletions, corrections, additions? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. We're moving on to item 13C, miscellaneous. There is none. I'm sorry, 11C, there is none. Moving on to 12, which is unfinished business. There is none. Item 13, which is new business. Counselor Paterna, please.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution revising purchasing exemptions. Whereas Connecticut General Statutes 4A-53A allows the Commissioner of Administrative Services, or the Commissioner, to serve as the contracting agent for a group of 3 or more municipalities that seek to purchase supplies, materials, or equipment upon the request of such group. Provide that 1, the Commissioner determines that the group will achieve a cost savings through the Commissioner serving as the contracting agent, and 2, such cost savings are greater than the administrative cost to the state. Whereas Connecticut Statute 7-148VB allows the town of South Windsor, the town, to purchase equipment, supplies, materials, or services from the list of eligible entities listed in the statute. And whereas the town is constrained in its ability to purchase equipment, supplies, and materials pursuant to the town charter, Section 714, and whereas pursuant to Section 714, the town has a $5,000 cap on purchases without the town manager inviting sealed bids or proposals or getting the town council to waive such bidding process. And whereas Section 714 is a constraint on the town's ability to achieve cost savings because during the waiver process, supplies disappear or the opportunity to implement cost savings has changed. And whereas the town council has determined that requiring sealed bids for purchases greater than $5,000 is not in the best interest of the town. Now therefore be it resolved by the town council of the town of South Windsor. Resolved that notwithstanding Section 714, the town council authorizes the town manager to participate with the state of Connecticut contracting programs for the purchase of supplies, materials, or equipment pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 4A-53A. And resolved that notwithstanding Section 714, the town council authorizes the town manager to purchase equipment, supplies, materials, or services from the list of eligible entities listed in Connecticut General Statutes 7-148VB. Resolved that notwithstanding Section 714, the town council has determined that the $5,000 threshold requiring sealed bids for the purchase of equipment, supplies, or materials is an impediment to the efficient operations of the town and is not in the best interest of the town, and hereby authorizes the town manager to waive bidding requirements for the purchase of equipment, supplies, or materials for contracts valued at $25,000 or less for the remainder of this fiscal year. Resolved that nothing in this resolution shall abrogate the provisions of Charter Section 1001 requiring disclosure of financial interests by any elected or appointed town official, board or commission member or employee.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Councilor Paterno, any
Yes,
discussion?
yes.
Please, go ahead.
Once again, thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, Mr. Maniscalco, I just want to make sure that we all understand this is going through the state purchasing agreement. So these folks have already been through approved contract and bidding processes that we're using on this list, right?
Correct.
And once we get to $25,000, then this is no longer applicable.
Correct, so anything over the
Right.
dollar amount of $25,000 would have to get an RFP done.
Then we go back to an RFP.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was trying to go through the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Was there a discussion, because I brought it with me, was there discussion about the list that you put together for us of some potential projects that this resolution would apply to?
How deep a discussion, I don't know what you're looking for. I mean, I think
guess,
it
I
was
mean-
mentioned that it was provided to everybody, but I don't think there was like in-depth of what the projects were.
So I'm not a mathematician, but just a quick overview. We're talking almost over $100,000 of potential projects that this could apply to. And if I remember correctly, I mean, we had to cut the Board of Ed's budget by $150,000. We cut our budget by $150,000. So I'm concerned about kind of enacting a resolution that exposes is not the right word, but I'm concerned about enacting a resolution when we're talking about over $100,000 worth of projects that's not coming through the council and is outside of our charter. I mean, am I reading this list incorrectly?
Yeah, because all those things were already approved by the town council during the budgetary process. Those are just things that we need to get done this year that have been approved as part of the budget.
So if we've already approved them, why do you need the resolution for us to go outside of the charter?
Because the way a municipality works is there's purchasing processes that we have to follow. And within those purchasing processes, the charter lays out that the town has to bid things out for $5,000 or more unless the town council sees it's in the best interest of the town. So it's that section that says, unless the town council sees it's in the best interest of the town to waive that bidding requirement that we're using to say, so we're not going outside the charter, we are staying within the charter very clearly. That basically the charter and our forefathers who drafted it were smart enough to say, yes, we would like them to have a $5,000 cap. But we can also see there may be instances in the future where that 5,000 cap could be inhibiting to the town to get its work done in an efficient manner. So that section in the charter that says, unless the town council sees it's in the best interest of the town, allows us to do that. I would proffer and say here tonight that given the costs that we're seeing with inflation, the challenges that we're experiencing with supply lines and other things associated with a lot of our projects, we're trying to work as efficiently as possible and asking you to give us this increase in our ability to be able to purchase things or get jobs done without having to put an RFP together. Because our concern is that that $100,000 approximately of projects could end up actually costing us $150,000 or $200,000 if we have to go bid it out and go through those processes.
And how many times, and I apologize for not asking this 2 meetings ago, how many times have you come to us for a waiver, and I believe we've approved it every time, and had we essentially paid more than we should have by coming to the council for that waiver?
So we haven't had to pay more yet, but we've come to the council 4 times, I believe it was. And that was when it was asked of me to find out another process that we could put in place to avoid having to keep coming to you for waivers. As well, there were a number of instances that it was very much on the line, in all honesty, of us losing that opportunity. particularly the sidewalk outside. If we hadn't actually had you guys waive that bidding process and the council just fell right with that date, there was a potential we probably could have missed that council meeting with the required documents. We would have lost out on that opportunity. So that was, I believe that came in on a Thursday night or a Friday before your council meeting. So it was very close to actually losing out on that opportunity.
But to date, we haven't actually lost
Yet.
any or suffered any increases.
Yeah.
Yet.
Thank you.
Counselor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think one of the items that fell within this sort of price range that made me think about it was when the police chief came up and said, we need more body armor for our police. And if we have to go out to RFP, we might get a different brand of body armor, which would then be put our officers at risk because of it's a different kind, it doesn't match with this, there could be some confusion. So in that instance, that would be materials or something that it wasn't necessarily a price thing, it was a safety issue. And you know, so I think we need to have discretion around this as well. So that was one of the reasons why, this was important to me to try to get something like this on the books.
Thank you. Counselor Kozakowski.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions, and then I have some notes on the text itself. But first, looking at the, I'm sorry, okay, so the second, okay, so the first resolved, thank you, mentions Connecticut General Statute 4A 53A. And that basically is a statute that says that the state can come up with their own contractor list, correct?
Actually, that statute says that municipalities can purchase off of state and regional contracting programs.
Okay, okay, so that's one pool of people that we can purchase goods and services from.
By statute, unfortunately, our
statute.
charter doesn't mention anything like that. So we have statutory authority, but our charter doesn't. So our thought was, if we could have this in this resolution, the council is then basically approving it and allowing us to move forward in that regard.
Okay, okay, that makes sense to me. And then the second resolved references Connecticut General Statute 7-148 VB, which lists a group of people that we could purchase goods and services from, and they're listed as,
I believe that one's the regional consortiums, essentially.
Yeah.
It's like regional purchasing councils and things of that nature.
okay, so is there, well, it says, I just found it, I'm sorry.
First one is,
Purchase, sell such goods or services to other state governments, political subdivisions of the state, nonprofit organizations, or public purchasing consortia, available through regional education service, blah, blah, blah. Is there anybody, that is not included in this group
I mean, you've got, essentially, from my understanding, we could purchase from a nonprofit regional purchasing consortium. We probably a for-profit would not be eligible. So that's the one that would.
Okay,
that
so
would
there,
not
so
be.
there are some people, some groups, some businesses that we would not be able to exercise
Correct.
the statute, okay. So I guess to get to my point, will this $25,000 cap only, or this discretion that they're giving you, only apply for people in these groups that are identified, where you would would waive the bid?
No, it's two separate ways of doing things. So one, and in all honesty, a lot of our department heads like to purchase off of purchasing councils and consortiums better than actually going through an RFP process or even going to get quotes for something that's under the 5 now. So my thought is they kind of work separate from each other. So you've kind of got the purchasing consortium idea here, or if something's $25,000 or below, they're going to have to get a couple, 3 quotes that they bring back and say, yeah, these are the ones, and then we would move forward from there.
Okay, so let's say there's a startup company that pitches you an idea, or one of your department heads to some sort of service $20,000. Never heard of him from him before, or never has done business with the town or any other town. Would you be able to sign a contract applying this provision with this person if you liked, the good or service they're
So
providing?
if it was a service that we had budgeted for that the town council had approved already, yes. If it was something new that we were not in the market for doing, so this is a new startup and they're offering some amazing service that we've never done before, I don't have $20,000 sitting around in our budget to be able to purchase those services anyways, so we would not be able to do that.
But if you did,
If I did,
would you still, would you say, oh, that's a great idea? Would you be forced to go to RFP to go for other proposals of that other brilliant idea?
I guess in theory you could do it without going for an RFP because it'd be under the $25,000 cap. But in reality, we don't have that money to be able to do it anyways, so.
Okay, all right, I'm still for it, so, there's, I sharpened my pencil and made some notes on the whereas clauses. Do we want to move to that, Mayor, or do we want to continue a general discussion?
We can continue general discussion, then we'll come back to this, and I'm just pausing right now with that face because the town attorney wrote this, so you're gonna go in and change the town attorney's writing? Could be.
It'll make sense when
Absolutely, I'll give you a fair shot, no worries. Any other comments? Counselor Lydecker?
Just for the record, not all attorneys are always right. I am, but not all attorneys are.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Here we go, okay.
I do have one additional question, though. I mean, it does state in the second to last paragraph, the resolved, that this is for the remainder of the fiscal year. So this is just until the next budget cycle? And then is the anticipation to come back and do this again, or is the anticipation potentially looking into the charter?
Well, I mean, where we are right, that's not my decision, whether we look into the charter or not. That's a decision for the 9 members of the town council. In terms of when the fiscal year ends, this will end and go away. My thought is we would reevaluate where we stand in terms of inflation and everything else in the world, and if it seems like it's beneficial for us to keep going down this road with purchasing, we would then bring another resolution forward to ask you to approve at that time.
Okay, so this is just a small stopgap, essentially like a pilot program for now to reevaluate at the end of the budget cycle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, Counselor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this goes back to Counselor Gamble's original point, and that this proposal fits in the sense that now we have a chance to evaluate it, and then after this, so it's a fixed period of time. After this, the council will say, okay, how did this work? Good, bad, or indifferent, and then we say, okay, we're going to extend it or not, but this gives us a chance to look at it. I think that's what some of the initial discussion was, so thanks.
And Counselor Kozakowski, if I could ask you, and ask the town manager, since you've printed out some state statutes and charter information over there, is there not a section within our charter under 714 possibly, that's, or 71 dash, I don't have my glasses on, that states the council shall, so it's authorizing the council to give us the authority to do something in one of the sentences in the charter, I do believe. It's giving us the authority to do this.
Well, you have the authority to create a budget.
Yes.
You have complete authority to, and you have the complete authority to waive any bidding requirement that you want to. I mean, that is within your authority, and it's your prerogative if you want to.
Okay. Okay, Counselor Kozakowski, you're on. Go for it.
Okay, with all due respect to Attorney Corilla, I'll just go for the jugular first.
You go through the what first?
The jugular first.
Oh, geez.
The last whereas clause, I'll read it verbatim. Whereas the town council has determined that requiring sealed bids for purchases greater than $5,000 is not in the best interest of the town. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. If we have a sealed bid of a project that costs $1 million, I think it's in the best interest of the town to, do the sealed bid process.
How would you like to change that?
Yeah, so what I propose, what I will propose in I guess, a larger
These are all
motion.
friendly amendments to this, so these
Yeah.
are all going to be friendly amendments to
Okay.
this.
Then I'll offer a friendly amendment to strike the words "greater than $5,000 is not," and I propose a modification, "less than $25,000 may not always be." So what that does is,
Go, no,
it-
don't
it-
explain it, just say it again, please, so we can all write it down.
I'll read it, the whole whereas proposed, whereas the town council has determined that requiring sealed bids for purchases less than $25,000 may not always be in the best interest of the town.
And Counselor Paterno, I do believe that you read this. Do you accept that friendly amendment? You do, okay. And do we need to vote on that friendly amendment, Mr. Maniscalco? We do. And is there acceptance of that friendly amendment for everyone? Counselor Gamble, you look befuddled. What's the matter?
Do we want to do all of his friendly amendments?
No, sir, one at a time, please.
We'll do one.
One at a time, please. Okay, so is there a second in accepting that friendly amendment? You second it? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? Okay, Counselor Kozakowski, continue, please.
Okay, it'll get confusing. All right, so the fifth whereas clause.
Can I just stop you for 1 second? Amanda, did you get that friendly amendment word for word there on that vote and the correction there? Thank you, I'm sorry. I want to make sure that she's able to keep up with us. Go ahead, I'm sorry, the fifth?
Okay, I'll read it verbatim and then propose it, and then offer a change.
Is it the fifth one, or where are we at?
The fifth, that begins, whereas section 714 is a constraint on the town's ability to achieve cost savings because during the waiver process, supplies disappear or other opportunity to implement cost savings has changed. And what I propose to do is strike the words "is a constraint" and modify it to just include the word constraints. And then after it says to achieve cost savings, I would suggest adding the words "in current economic conditions." So the whole whereas clause would read, whereas section 714 constrains the town's ability to achieve cost savings in current economic conditions because during the waiver process, supplies disappear or other opportunity to implement cost savings has changed.
Or other opportunity, that's the word you're putting in there also, to implement cost savings has changed? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so
You're
yeah, that
adding a
part
few
would-
words.
The last, I don't know, 15 or words.
Read
was
it slowly again, please.
Read the whole thing?
Please.
Okay. Whereas section 714 constrains the town's ability to achieve cost savings in current economic conditions because during the waiver process, supplies disappear or other opportunity to implement cost savings has changed. And
Is there a second on that? Do we need another reading for that? Mr. Maniscalco, did you get all that wording?
I got it.
are you good with that, Tom?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there, Counselor Paterno?
No, I accept that as
Oh, you
a friendly amendment.
accept
yeah.
that? And is there a second on that change, that verbiage? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. That motion carries on that friendly amendment. Go ahead.
Okay, the third whereas clause, which reads, whereas the town is constrained in its ability to purchase equipment, supplies, materials pursuant to the town charter section 714, and then section 714, and this is a redundant and it's somewhat redundant to another paragraph, and I think the other paragraph gives more content. So I would suggest striking that whole entire whereas clause. And then with that, we would just modify the next whereas clause to include the town charter section 714, that name. Because
I see what you're saying. You want to remove, on page 6, you would like to remove the second whereas completely, but take the word, the town charter section 714, include it into the third whereas.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Is everyone clear on that? Is there, go ahead.
I'm just wondering where you find that redundant, like where else is that?
That's my question.
Okay. Can you point out where the redundancy is, like where it is said elsewhere?
It would be in the next, in the modification that we just did, where it says, whereas section 714 constrains the town's ability.
The fourth whereas on page 6.
So does the loss of ability to purchase equipment, supplies, and materials should be moved into the next paragraph?
Are you asking it should be?
I'm
No, he's
asking-
saying it's redundant with 4, with the fourth whereas. He's saying the second whereas is redundant with the fourth whereas.
Right, but in the.
Yeah, yes, Councilor Evans, I see what you're saying, but in the first whereas clause and the second whereas clause, it talks about purchasing equipment, supplies, materials.
I see it
So
now.
it's already kind of covered.
In the second whereas.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. In the second whereas, it says purchase equipment, supplies, materials. So I agree. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Kabowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm still trying to see where that's a redundancy. So once it allows the town, that's basically saying, okay, that allows the town to purchase equipment, supplies, and materials. The following says, the town is constrained in its ability because of the $5,000 cap. So are they really saying the same thing, or are they pointing out two different issues?
Well, do we want to say that the town charter is constraining our ability, constraining us from doing something good, or is it the actual cap that's constraining us from doing something good? I'm more inclined to just say the charter is the charter, but this this one detail is posing a problem.
It might say in the 5th paragraph, it talks about the constraints. I'm also,
We can leave it too, it's just a suggestion.
Sure, no, please, open discussion. Let's figure this out. Go ahead.
On that one, I think I'm in favor of leaving that line in. I think it's trying to say something different than the one above it. So I think I'm in favor of leaving that line in.
The second whereas, who would like to leave in?
Where it says, whereas the town is constrained in its ability to purchase equipment, supplies, materials pursuant to the town charter, I'm in favor, I think, of leaving that one in.
Leaving that one in, okay? Counselor Kozakowski, are you
Yeah.
okay with that, leaving that in?
I'm fine with leaving it as is, so I'll withdraw
Okay.
that.
You
It's
withdraw
fine.
that
One way or
friendly
the other,
amendment.
it's
Okay,
fine.
who will withdraw that friendly amendment? And Counselor Evans?
I'm not sure if Counselor Kozakowski's done with his amendments, but
I don't think
Not
so.
yet.
Okay.
I don't think so.
my only thought is we're making a lot of changes, and I wonder, like, is there a time constraint on passing this? Or might we want to have the town attorney review an amended resolution before passing it?
Mr. Maniscalco?
I would suggest the changes that so far I've seen are not
They're not.
such a substantive manner that it would warrant having to go back to the town attorney at this point.
I would agree.
You know, and I think if the council is comfortable with the changes that are made, and that's the version that you would like to pass, then I think you are well within your right to pass it this evening if you wanted.
Okay.
Thank you. Counselor Kozakowski next.
Okay, next, there's multiple parts let's see, in the first whereas clause, the problem is, there's times where it says the purchase of equipment, supplies, or materials. If you go to where the source material for that, which is Connecticut General Statute 7-148 VB, it uses the words purchase of equipment, supplies, materials, or services. So services is omitted in multiple occasions on this, in this
Do we
resolution.
outsource RFP and do we RFP for services, Mr. Maniscalco? Or are we discussing about purchases, supplies, and materials here?
So our services are actually exempt from requirements of the $5,000. That's actually exempt completely. So it's really the purchase of materials
Okay,
that
so,
we're talking about.
So we don't need the word services.
so there's no reason to compel ourselves to mirror the state statute?
No, because I think this is in your charter.
The state statute supersedes our charter, if our charter disagrees with state statute.
Well, then I got the charter right here. Just gonna say. It just says purchases.
So it doesn't say services?
Well, specifically, section 714 doesn't specify, and that's the only one I prepared, so.
Oh, it does not say
Yeah.
services.
It doesn't, it just says purchases.
Purchases, okay. So we're good, we don't have to worry about services then, right? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
if the town manager thinks it's good, then,
But if that's what it says, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Counselor Kozakowski?
and then, one last change, I would suggest, at the fourth, resolved, it says, for the remainder of the fiscal year, I think it would be, since this is, gonna be a one-time thing, let's just specify of the fiscal year FY 2021 to 2022.
Okay. That's fine. Does everyone
Or
accept that
2022,
friendly amendment?
2023, correct.
2020,
Thank you.
2022, 2023. Counselor Paterno, are you okay with that friendly amendment? Yes, you are. Is there a motion to accept that friendly amendment of including the date for the fiscal year? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay. So.
Thank you.
Mr. You're quite welcome. Mr. Maniscalco, after hearing all of these changes that have gone on with this resolution, is there anything that we need to be aware of with you that you feel that should be either discussed, conversed, or changed on this at all? Are you comfortable with the friendly amendments?
No, I'm fine with the
You're
friendly
fine with that, okay? So we'll be moving on then to vote on this resolution as amended and changed. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Now moving on, Counselor Kabasky, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution 13B, resolution approving the detour plan around Pleasant Valley Road Bridge project. Whereas the town of South Windsor and the state of Connecticut has deemed the bridge over the Podunk River in poor condition and in need of a replacement, and whereas the location, natural and man-made features around the bridge poses significant challenges to maintain traffic over the bridge during replacement, and whereas after considerable analysis and evaluation of the alternatives, it has been determined that temporarily closing Pleasant Valley Road Bridge during replacement will allow this project to proceed in the shortest time frame and with considerable cost savings, and will create the least negative impacts to the surrounding residents. And whereas emergency services, including police and fire, have been consulted and support the temporary closure of the bridge, now therefore be it resolved that the town council supports the replacement of Pleasant Valley Road Bridge and temporarily closing Pleasant Valley Road at the Podunk River Bridge, creating a temporary detour around the project site for the duration of the project. Be it further resolved that the town council authorizes the engineering department to continue with developing the design plans for the replacement of the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge with a temporary closure of Pleasant Valley Road at this bridge and a temporary detour around the project site.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion on this? We have our staff here that can answer some questions for us. If you'd like to come up, Jeff. Counselor Evans?
Thank you. I had one other question about how this would affect traffic that I hadn't thought of before, and that would be school buses. Has the Board of Ed and the school been consulted on the impact that this might have on school buses?
Not specifically, so the school buses will have to obviously abide by the detour. They will have to, the school bus routes vary from year to year, so that's why we haven't directly consulted them at this point. But the school buses will have to pick up students where they can turn around on Pleasant Valley Road if they need to and go back. So one possibility is they turn around at Hilton Drive. Okay, and I don't know if there's any students between Hilton Drive and the bridge, but if there were, they'd have to probably go to Hilton Drive as an example. And they could also potentially turn around in the Veterans Memorial parking lot. And as long as they have places to turn around and can get to their students, they're fine.
Okay, I hope that this will be a conversation with the Board of Ed, knowing the shortage of bus drivers, the first and second runs. My children go to Pleasant Valley and are on the second run, which definitely impacts like the time that it takes for them
Right.
to get home, which is like over 40 minutes from the time that the school ends.
We
So I
certainly
think-
always discuss these things.
Yeah,
with
so I
Board of
think
Ed,
that
yes.
as much discussion and planning with the school as possible, because I know that they're in a position with short staff and running double bus runs, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Counselor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, can I just ask, why is this before us?
Why is it before?
Yeah.
Well, it's before it, so you're aware of what we're planning to do as we do this project. We've done this with other projects. But Pleasant Valley Road, frankly, is the busiest road and the busiest bridge we're going to be replacing. So we want to make sure you're aware and the public is aware that this is, this is the process. We're requesting to close the road. We think it's the best way to replace the bridge. And like I said, we want everybody to be aware of that.
Okay, so is there, maybe Mr. Maniscalco, you can answer this. Is there any obligation of the council to be reviewing this or reviewing a routing plan, either through the charter or ordinance or statutory?
So, I mean, we're making a significant change temporarily to what is a major artery within our community. As we just heard from Councilor Evans, there's challenges with buses even. And this has the potential to disrupt some people's lives during that period of time. So, but our thought is that the cost savings outweigh that impact. And that's why we're looking to you to help in terms of making that decision and move forward with this. So we are looking for you to sign off on this idea that we are going to close the road down for a period of time as representatives of the residents in the community.
Okay, so we're not necessarily obligated to approve or deny, but more you're just soliciting support from the council.
Correct.
On this plan. Okay, thank you. That makes much more sense. So I saw online there's a public hearing notice for this
Yes.
project. You
Yes.
mind describing that real quick?
So tomorrow night, in this room, we'll have a public hearing for the residents to come in. We'll present the plans for the bridge, including this detour, if it's approved tonight. Allow them to ask questions, try and answer their questions, get feedback from them, so we can proceed with finalizing the design for this project.
Okay, and then there's also a public hearing with wetlands, the Wetlands Agency, correct?
Yes, there's a hearing of the Wetlands Agency, which we just found out today has been postponed until January. But there's a hearing with Wetlands Agency because obviously this work involves wetlands, disturbance to wetlands.
Okay, and then we're discussing it later today. We're talking about sending it to Planning and Zoning Commission for a 24 review.
Yes,
And there'd be more opportunity for public comment then.
right.
Okay, so getting to my point, since there's 3 opportunities in the next couple weeks to solicit public comment, which may or may not impact the detour plan, I'd like to hear what the public would have to say. Maybe there's a good suggestion or modification to the detour plan that might come out of the process. Do you think we could, I would be more inclined to hear what the public has to say, and as long as there's no rush to get this approved, maybe we can,
The rush is to get it approved so we can begin construction as soon as possible. I mean, obviously, we want to get all the public input. But once we get that, we plan to continue with the finalizing the design, as I said.
so, would January, when's our next meeting? January 3rd? Would waiting till January 3rd really cause a problem?
You have a
And not
public hearing
timing.
tomorrow night and
Be a
having
huge
this
delay now.
information. There's a public hearing tomorrow night, and having this information about the detour presented at the public hearing may be helpful to some with your presentation. And these are the town engineers that know our streets better than,
Oh,
you know,
I'm not disagreeing,
Yeah.
disagreeing,
I think they
you've
have a
been
pretty
doing
good
this long
plan and
enough
they
to
could
know how to
handle.
do it, but,
Yeah.
just if there's, if we represent, the public, and if there's opportunities to hear from the public, I'd rather exercise my decision-making after we hear from them.
Did you hear from any of the public after this was first presented at our last meeting with our slideshow? In the discussion at that time about the detour? Have you heard from
speaking
public?
rhetorically, or?
No, I didn't know if you have heard from the public at all from the last meeting.
No, I haven't heard,
Okay.
from anybody.
Okay.
There's also opportunity to hear.
Okay.
If a good suggestion comes out, hate to be tied to something that, doesn't incorporate the best ideas. Because, I haven't heard, like you mentioned, signage. For example, you mentioned signage, at Chapel Road and, along, Route 5 there to detour like trucks away. But maybe there's more opportunities. Maybe you can partially block roads or things like that, to help. I don't know.
Yep.
So
No, I
maybe
understand what you're
something
asking.
good can come out of it.
Keep in mind that we won't go to wetlands before your next council meeting, and planning and zoning will not hear it before your next council meeting.
But also in this resolution, Councilor Kozakowski, if I may, it's not being specific about what they're going to do or not do. It's just talking about a detour in general. It's not talking about signage. It's not talking about certain streets. It's just talking about a detour in general, that the citizens are aware and that we're aware that a detour is going to take place. If ideas or suggestions do come up between now and then, I'm sure the engineering department can think it through and figure out something that's in the best interest of our traffic plans and our citizens and everyone else. This is just an in general detour statement.
Okay, so this isn't tied to the plan that we saw last week?
Not specifically, I mean, that right now would be our best recommendation, but yes, there is room to modify that. As the mayor said, if there are good suggestions, to modify that.
Okay, so if something does come up good from the public, that you say, hey, that's a good idea, you'd be able to implement them and
Certainly.
not change our opinion of.
Right.
Okay.
This is basically acknowledging that we acknowledge that there's going to be a detour
Okay,
for the construction of the bridge. How that comes to fruition is, and if other ideas come up, something like that.
thank you.
Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to the notice to the public, we would like to think that the public watches every single meeting in town. I don't think that's realistic. How are we going to notify them? Is there going to be signage a month ahead of time? I mean, this is a road my husband and I and my neighborhood use every day. So this is going to have a huge impact on my neighborhood. So how are we going to give them that advance notice that this is going to be a detour and potential closure?
Of the actual closure, so what we've done in the past is we've had the contractor, once we select the contractor, put up a sign at least a couple weeks in advance saying, hey, the road is going to be closed on such and such a date for this bridge work. We would put out a press release in the newspaper. We would post it on the town's website, and we would send out letters to the direct abutters in the affected area. Obviously, not everybody on Pleasant Valley Road, but in the affected area of Pleasant Valley Road, we'd send those people directly letters.
And then we're probably talking, thank you, we're talking potential summer months, and I believe this is the bridge right near VMP, so how does that I mean, VMP could theoretically be bringing in some revenue to our town. How are we going to navigate with VMP in the height of the summer month if this bridge is potentially closed?
So obviously, we would want to keep VMP open and do the bridge work so that it didn't interfere with the operation of VMP.
So we'll be able to keep that entrance open, but people just kind of have to detour around that road into another area. Was that coming down Ellington to get onto Pleasant Valley into VMP?
Right, so the access will be from an Ellington roadside, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Evans?
I guess you kind of answered it a bit from Counselor Lidecker's question, but last time I asked about VMP and the impact, and today I asked about the impact on buses. Do we know which months this will span? Because we're probably looking at it impacting use of VMP as well as school buses, or is it not during the summer months and only during the school months? Is it, like, where will the biggest impact be?
So we're talking at least a 6-month process, and we can't do it much work this time of year. So it's going to affect both school and the summer months when VMP is open. I don't know if it's going to be towards the beginning of the summer or towards the end of the summer at this point. It depends on how quickly we get the design done and get this out to bid.
So it would at least be the beginning of the school year?
I don't know at this point.
Okay.
Beginning
If
or end?
best case, we would start this project in the spring, and that's a stretch, honestly, but we start in the spring and finish it about the time school starts, beginning of September.
Right.
Worst case, we'd start it in like June, and it would go until the end of November. We want to get it done in one construction season. We definitely don't want this going
Right.
over a winter.
I'm just thinking logistically, this really coordination with the schools might be a huge factor, because knowing how they create their bus routes, and if you create a detour before the end of the year, it's going to change bus schedules, as well as if you start out the school year with a detour, that's going to impact the start versus it might change after. So I think some really good coordination with our schools would be helpful so that the buses can have a good plan for that, and families as well.
Yes, agreed.
Counselor Paterno?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to let everyone know that I've attended a number of these public workshops on projects in town. And by the way, think about paving of Buckland Road this summer and how little inconvenience there was to traffic, and the way the engineering department handled it. So my experience is that when these public hearings happen and neighborhoods and people who live in that area come in, if there is something that needs to be modified, the engineering department has always worked with our residents to make sure it works well. So I appreciate that, Mr. Doolittle, and thank you very much. But I think we all need to know that. So it's not really carved in stone. They're going to hear from people, and they may make modifications. They're agreeable to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Doolittle, tomorrow evening is a public hearing on what, please?
On the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge Replacement Project.
Okay, and is that on our town website, and can that be shared on social media so everyone out there can see it for us to share? Mr. Maniscalco, yes? Okay, thank you. So are there any more comments or discussion on this? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Item, we are on 13, are we on 13C? Yes. And that is Councilor Lopez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 13C, resolution approving the refund of taxes to 46 taxpayers for a total of $22,093.56. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a refund of taxes to 46 South Windsor taxpayers, the total of said refund being $22,093.56, and as more fully described on attached Exhibit A.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Moving on to 13D. Councilor Kozakowski, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 13D, resolutions. Yes. Resolution submitting bridge and road reconstruction capital improvement projects to the Planning and Zoning Commission pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Whereas the town of South Windsor has a list of road and drainage capital improvement projects that were approved for funding via the town capital improvement plan by bond referendums that passed in March 2021 and November 2022, and by state grants for part of the replacement of the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge over the Podunk River, the reconstruction of Kennedy Road, the reconstruction of Dart Hill Road, and sidewalks on sections of Ayers Road, Nevers Road, Foster Street, and Buckland Road. And whereas the following projects are included on this list and are in the design and permitting stages: Pleasant Valley Road Bridge replacement over the Podunk River, Pleasant Valley Road reconstruction between about Pepin Place and Clark Street, Kennedy Road reconstruction, sidewalks on sections of Ayers Road, Nevers Road, Foster Street, Buckland Road, and Dart Hill Road reconstruction. And whereas any plans for improvements to town streets, bridges, culverts, and drainage systems must be submitted to the South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission for a report pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Now therefore be it resolved that the projects listed above be submitted to the South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission for a report pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Council Paterno, seconded. And is there any discussion? Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What does this list of projects represent? Is this the entire pavement for progress, or is it like the first chunk?
It's a mixed bag of a bunch of different projects. So I believe there's some from the STEEP grant that we received from the state. I believe there's probably is there some for the pavement in progress that was recently done?
Yes, one or two from paving in progress. It's not all of the paving for progress, no. So it's the first chunk, if you will.
So this was, we're submitting this for the capital improvement project, so that it was like the capital improvement fund. So is this all being funded through different sources, paving for progress?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag of all kinds of stuff, yeah.
Which ones are, how are we gonna keep track of this? Like, how are we gonna keep track of which ones are the paving for progress ones? And, because I think that's what really a lot of people care about, is we just passed a $35 million referendum for this paving for progress, and people wanna know, like, where is that money going toward, and which ones of these are part of that, I think.
Right, so we're developing a list of those projects. I think we're gonna split them up by year, but we're still refining that process, so we can tell people what we're doing year by year.
Okay. And, okay. All right, that's kind of what I was looking for here. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, first, are there any other decisions, appropriations or whatnot that this council has to make for any of these projects?
Well,
Perhaps.
it's gonna pass the 824, or if they don't pass the 824, or if they do, you guys could override the 824, of course,
Yeah,
if you wanted.
I guess
I
my
wouldn't
question-
see that happening, but,
So I guess a better way to frame the question is, who is this 824 report going to
it comes back to all of you.
make another decision?
I don't think you have to make a decision. You don't have to. You could, but you don't have to.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm fine with sending it to P and Z. There's two little changes to the resolution that I want to suggest. One of them is just to fix something that's factually incorrect, where it says, whereas any plan for improvements to town streets, bridges, culverts, and drainage systems must be first submitted.
What page
to
are
the
you on,
P&Z.
please?
Oh, last page.
In which paragraph?
Page 8, the first full whereas clause.
Okay.
It says, any plans for improvements to town streets, bridges, and so on. That's not true. It's major changes, right? would
I believe it
require
says significant
824 review.
improvements is what the language is.
Because even in section 824, it says the provisions of this section shall not apply to maintenance or repair of existing property, buildings, public ways, including but not limiting to resurfacing roads. So it allows for some stuff to happen that doesn't
Right.
require the review.
No, these are major improvements.
So you feel that this raises to the level of needing this additional review?
These projects, yes.
My understanding is the Planning and Zoning Commission actually requested that they do an 824. Am I correct in that?
They did request
Yeah.
it.
So
Okay.
they requested to do the review, so.
Okay, and then the process is for that to happen, the
You have to
council has
ask
to
them
ask
to
for
do
it.
it first,
Okay,
yeah.
understood. So could I just, I would suggest changing that whereas clause to say any major plans for, or any plans for major improvements or impactful, improvements or something like that, as opposed to a blanket statement of saying any, because that's just not true. Is that?
What's not true, that it's not major improvements, because it's not
Oh,
written there?
no, I'm just saying, this whereas clause is a general statement.
Right,
And the general statement is incorrect.
and that comes from the 824 that you have in front of us, it says major improvements?
It says, it doesn't say major improvements, it says, exactly, no municipality, agency, no municipal agency or legislative body shall, one, locate, accept, abandon, widen, narrow, or extend any public street, bridge, parkway, or other public way. And then there's more irrelevant to this topic. Until the proposal to take such action has been referred to the commission for report. So by this definition, I don't know if these projects fall under a category of locate, accept, abandon, widen, or narrow, the road or the sidewalks, but if our town staff feels the need that it should require this review, I'm fine with that. But I just don't want something that's factually incorrect in the whereas clause.
I think the addition of the word major is fine, because that's my general understanding of the 824 statute as well, is that, major improvements or modifications to the roads should require an 824. I guess it could be debated whether this work is really considered a major improvement or not, but that being said, the Planning and Zoning Commission did request that they do the review, so I think to meet what they're asking for, it's simple enough.
Would you like a particular word put in there,
Yeah, so
Councilor
just
Merrick?
a friendly amendment to add any plan for major improvements to town streets.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Doolittle?
Yes,
The word major put in there?
sounds good.
Okay. I don't know, since you read the motion. I don't know. You read the resolution, you can't change your own resolution.
Oh,
Yeah, it's, Counselor Gamble?
Friendly amendment, please, on this, the whereas, it should read, whereas any plan for major improvements to town streets, and then the rest. remains
Okay,
the
so
same.
you would like the word major put in there, thank you. All right, there's a second on that friendly amendment. To accept that friendly amendment, Counselor Kozakowski. All right, great. All those in favor of the, oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Evans?
My question is the actual issue in that clause, that piece, the word must? Or is it the word major?
the issue is that any plan for improvements, so what this whereas clause would imply is, repaving a road is improving the road, so therefore has to follow this process. And I don't think anybody wants that, just because of,
Right.
it's cumbersome.
Right, no, understood.
Counselor
I'm
Evans, you
good.
good? Thank you. Your light, please. Okay, all those in favor of the friendly amendment to the resolution? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, so now we're going to move on to accepting the resolution
I have
as
one more.
amended. Oh, one more.
Sorry.
Okay, that's one friendly amendment. One more.
My pencil's
Go
dull
ahead.
now. Just on the, now, the therefore, be it resolved, it says that the projects listed above be submitted. I would just suggest listing the names of the projects in this. I think the resolved should be able to stand on its own. So, in place of
Are they
the
not
words
listed?
that the projects listed above. I would suggest changing it to that the projects, including Pleasant Valley Road Bridge replacement over the Pahrump River, Pleasant Valley Road reconstruction between about Pepin Place and Clark Street, Kennedy Road reconstruction, sidewalks on sections of Ayers Road, Nevers Road, Foster Street, Buckland Road, and Dart Hill Road reconstruction be added to that paragraph.
I got you. So you want all the projects listed in the last paragraph as opposed to saying above?
Correct.
Gotcha. Is everyone okay with that? Counselor Evans?
You cannot make that amendment.
Amen?
I think Counselor Gambler.
He needs to make it right. Counselor Gamble?
I'd like to offer up a friendly amendment on the now, therefore be it resolved that the projects listed above be changed to a listing of the projects from above and added to this paragraph.
Thank you. Do you accept that friendly amendment, Counselor Kozakowski? Thumbs up. Okay. Counselor Evans?
Do we want to vote on that one first, and then I have my own?
Oh, you have your own? Wait then, please, hang on. Okay, so all those in favor, we have a second? Ooh, do we have a second? Counselor Gamble's, Counselor Paterno, thank you. And do we have all those in favor of accepting the friendly amendment, changing the last paragraph of the now therefore, of listing all of that? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? That friendly amendment gets carried. And Counselor Evans, go right ahead with yours.
So I
Are
have
you
no-
done, Counselor Kozakowski? Yes. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I have no changes. I just have a question, because one of the projects listed is one we just discussed.
Yes.
And then the other would cross that construction site. The Pleasant Valley Road reconstruction between Pepin Place and Clark Street would cross the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge replacing at Podunk River. Those, how would that plan take place for those two projects? They would not impede one another,
No,
right?
they would-
One would take place after the other, or?
Parts of them, we're going to try and get to happen at the same time, but they're separate projects. Pleasant Valley Road, since it's such a long road, will be split into two different phases. But the section near the bridge, we're trying to get done with the bridge.
Okay, so both
that's more
ends,
sufficient.
both ends of Pleasant Valley outside the bridge would kind of work in towards the bridge until completion.
Right.
Okay, thank you. No changes.
Okay, I have a change. No, I do, a big one. Watch it. I'm kidding. I have a question. Pepin Place, on page 7, the last at the bottom says Pleasant Valley Road reconstruction between about Pepin Place and Clark Street. Can the word about be removed? Or is that part of the street? The street is Pepin Place.
It
I don't-
can, so the preliminary plans, I'll give you a preview. The road doesn't need to be reconstructed all the way to Pepin Place.
Right.
But we want to continue sidewalks to connect to the sidewalks on Pepin Place. So that's why we said about. But if you would like to remove it, that's fine.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because it just, between about, just kind of I didn't quite get what that meant, between about. Would you like to reword that, Counselor Kozakowski, to a particular way?
I'm sorry, I was cleaning up. I thought we were almost done.
I'm just asking,
What was the
I just.
question?
You said we were gonna have fun tonight, so I just wanted to give you a chance. Counselor Evans, do you want to fix that, please?
What are we changing it to?
Down at the bottom, page 7, Pleasant Valley Road reconstruction between about Pepin Place, or how about near Pepin Place and Clark Street?
Sure.
Because the word, it goes between about, it just doesn't kind of flow there. In the area of?
Sure.
Could we just say Clark Street and about Pepin Place, just reverse them? And just say Pleasant Valley Road reconstruction between Clark Street and about Pepin Place,
Or near Pepin Place?
or near Pepin Place?
That would be great. Is that okay with you, Mr. Doolittle? Is that okay with the council as a friendly amendment? Oh, I did one. God bless me. Okay, here we go. So please read that again, Counselor Evans.
Pleasant Valley Road reconstruction between Clark Street and near Pepin Place. I'm reversing.
Is that acceptable as a friendly amendment, Counselor Kozakowski? Okay, and is there a second on that friendly amendment change? Thank you, and all those in favor on that friendly amendment? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? That motion carries. Okay, is there anything else on this resolution? Nothing. Counselor Gamble, are you sure you're good? Okay. So, not seeing or hearing anything else, all those in favor of the amended resolution? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the resolution carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Doolittle.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. I'm taking your pen and paper away from you from now on. You're so bad. Here we go. Counselor Evans, we will not be reading this because as of December 31st, this gentleman, there is no opening for this gentleman. Is there or is there not? He is already presently on, correct, Amanda? So he is not expired as of yet, so he will have to go on the first meeting of December, please. Thank you. Thank you.
So do we still need to read it and have it moved to the next meeting? Because we did not remove it from our agenda.
Oh, we're not reading it. We didn't remove it. You can make a motion. We don't have to read it at all. Right, Mr. Maniscalco? We don't have to
I
address
think we
this at
have
all.
to read it.
Well,
He's not going
So,
on
I mean,
until
the-
January.
his term ends
December 31st.
31st, but that doesn't mean you can't reappoint him to the new term that would end December 31st, 2026.
Yes, it does, because there's no vacancy that exists on that commission right now. You can't appoint anyone until the vacancy exists.
What I'm just saying is I think because it's on our agenda, we can't just not read it.
I
And
know.
we can't move past it. We have to read it and then say we'll move it to our next.
So why don't you read
Agenda.
it and table it till your January meeting?
We're going to not table, but we are going to, what is that other word? Not table it, because table it's to receive other information. Postpone. Thank you. I forgot. We haven't used that in forever. I forgot what that word was. We're going to postpone it.
So I'm going to read it first.
Please.
13E, resolution reappointing William Cohane to the redevelopment agency. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby reappoints William Cohane to the redevelopment agency for a term ending December 31st, 2026.
Is there a second? Okay, and so we're going to postpone?
I'd like to request that we postpone this agenda item and move it to our agenda for January 3rd.
All those in favor of postponing this agenda item into January 3rd?
Second that motion.
Second? And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, that motion carries. Thank you. Item number 14 is passage of ordinances. There is none. Item 15 is public input for any matter. Is anyone from the public out there that would like to speak to the council on any matter? Public input for any other matter shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by me, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speakers may address the council on any item. The speakers shall limit their speaking minutes to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter? Come on up, Mr. Edwards. Thank you. Good evening.
See if I get this right today.
You got it. You're good.
Sweet. Getting the hang of it. Hi there, Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive. Happy holidays all. And a huge, big shout out to all the students who stuck it out. It's not always this fun a meeting, but lots of excitement and lots of banter, which is always fun. At the November 21st meeting, Councilor Evans challenged the registered Republicans in town to participate in the Social Justice Commission. Pleased to say we had a registered Republican step forward, and his name was submitted by email on December 1st for inclusion on today's meeting, along with a candidate for a different commission. It doesn't look like his name made it to the agenda, but hoping that's an oversight and that we'll see him on the next town council agenda. Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Oh, I'm talking and my microphone's not on. Is there anyone else from the public? Good evening. You can just give it to our clerk of the council and she can pass them out to us. Thank you. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Rick Balboni. My address is 23 Debbie Drive. Good evening, councilors, Madam Mayor, residents of South Windsor. Appreciate your time and your attention. Once again, unfortunately, I am here after being nominated for a commission through the proper channels. As the document I have handed out states, just to have it unilaterally and discriminatorily removed from the agenda by the mayor without any explanation. I come here with one goal. I just want to understand why. I'm respectfully asking if any of you can at least give me that. If not during item 16, which is communications from the council, maybe an email or letter in the self-addressed stamped envelope I gave you earlier this year that you never used. I truly feel I would have been an asset to the Social Justice and Racial Equity Commission with a different perspective and plenty to contribute. I'm open and willing to participate, and I see great value in such a commission as long as there is diversity of opinions that are all taken into account to avoid such discrimination, as we see every time the mayor erases a name of qualified nominees from the agenda. I'm not sure if Councilor Evans is just unaware of the fact that someone was put up by the Republican Town Committee to fill the seats that she so desperately wants filled, or if the mayor's discriminatory practices of denying qualified and highly recommended Republican nominees from even being put on the agenda to be voted upon by the entire town council is kept from the other councilors, or maybe Councilor Evans only wants to fill her commission with like-minded individuals, and it seems she'll be content for the town council to make sure the commission moves forward no matter what, as she stated at the December 5th meeting. Those sound like some really high standards to me, which, since no one can give us a definition of these high standards, I can only assume it means having their values and opinions as given to them by CNN, which, as stated by their new CEO, the uninformed vitriol, especially from the left, has been stunning, which proves my point. So much of what passes for news is name-calling, half-truths, and desperation. We hear you, Chris. We hear you. Through hearsay, as I didn't hear it myself, I was informed that Councilor Lydecker didn't take kindly to being called a coward, as none of you should have been. After I was denied my first appointment to a board and commission through a biased party line 6-3 vote, after a few dozen amazing residents spoke on my behalf and others sent in emails. At that same meeting on January 3rd, 2022, Councilor Paterna stormed out during public input, then during the communications from council berated the resident as sharing misinformation without mentioning that the person he refers to that was although not voted down by some of the sitting Republicans on the council, was not denied her appointment, even after wishing death upon American patriots. I guess that fits the left's definition of high standards. Or maybe it's ignoring town residents at local events like the Veterans Memorial we just had this weekend. Or maybe it's verbally abusing the clerk of a local business, or disregarding the concerns of town residents for car break-ins and carjackings as not being a threat to this community, or allowing and even helping a hate group to face town property without the authority to do so, or being part of a town council that wanted a sexual predator to be part of a new daycare here in town. Those are the high standards we see from this council, and if you can check off multiple boxes for these things, they may even elect you as state senator. Due to a serious lack of transparency, I still have not received responses to numerous emails and requests for more information regarding my denials, except for from one of the counselors. Not that I agree with his assessment, but at least he had the courage of his convictions to tell me he was doing what he thought was right. I would like to hear from the rest of the counselors if their motives are not discrimination and hate, then what are they? In conclusion, I would like to quote John Dutton from the amazing show Yellowstone. When he's talking to his son-in-law, Rip, he tells him, Cowards rule the world these days with coward rules and coward customs. To succeed today, all you got to know is how to blame and how to complain. I truly believe it's the survival of the unfittest these days.
Thank you, Mr. Balboni.
Thank you.
Does anyone else from the public like to speak to the town council this evening on any matter that's not on the agenda? Anyone else from the public? Good evening, Ms. Delnicky.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Audrey Delnicky. It is unfortunate that the mayor is continuing her discriminatory practice against certain Republicans. Mr. Balboni was nominated by the Republican Town Committee for a seat on the Social Justice and Racial Equity Commission. This is Councilor Evans's pet project, and she keeps stating at every town council meeting that the Republicans are not nominating anyone for this commission. This statement has now been proven false. The Republican Town Committee nominated Mr. Balboni. The form was sent in to the clerk of the council to be placed on the agenda. The nomination of Mr. Balboni was not placed on the agenda. Councilor Evans now needs to stop saying that the Republican Town Committee is not nominating anyone. It appears that no one until Mr. Balboni came forward has volunteered to be on this committee. Mr. Balboni was nominated, the nomination form was submitted, and the nomination was not placed on the agenda. So the narrative that the Republicans are not nominating anyone for this commission is a falsehood. By not bringing the nomination forward shows that the majority, especially the mayor, wants to keep the narrative going that the Republicans do not want to nominate anyone for this committee. Mr. Balboni was on the same nomination form that Mr. Mazzucato for the Patriotic Commission, but Mr. Balboni was left off. Why was this form that shows who is being nominated left out of the council packet so the public can see who is being nominated for boards and commissions? This was the same scenario that happened at the last council meeting after I was nominated to the Inland Wetlands Commission and not placed on the agenda by the mayor, and the nomination form was also left out of the council packet. Was it left out because the mayor did not want the nomination form to be seen? This document was submitted to the clerk of the council by the nominating party. This should have been part of the record, just like the nomination form showing that Mr. Balboni was nominated for Social Justice Committee. This is government in secrecy, and the residents of this town deserve an explanation as to why the mayor and most of this council continue this discriminatory practice. Again, the majority does not want the public to see that certain individuals are being nominated and not brought forward by the mayor. By doing so, the mayor is showing her continued dislike and discrimination against certain Republicans. Finally, I will close with the same two questions. Councilor Evans, what is your definition of high standards? And when will the mayor and the majority on this town council stop discriminating against two Republicans that have been nominated to serve on boards and commissions? If you are going to make the statement that someone who is nominated does not have high standards, you should back that statement up with your definition, what it is. By acting the way you are not meeting my standards of how a counselor should act. A counselor should respond to a resident when they are asked a question at a meeting or in writing. You have failed. So now you have in your hands the letter requesting from the majority party an answer to my question to high standards, and have requested that this letter be part of the record for tonight's meeting, and in doing so, this letter should be part of the council package that is posted online for the next meeting being held on January 3rd, 2023.
Thank you, Ms. Delnicky.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to speak to the council this evening on any matter that's not on the agenda? Anyone else from the public? Going twice? 3 times? Anyone from the public like to speak to the council on any matter? Not seeing anyone. Moving on. Communications from the council. We have no communications except happy holidays. Executive session, we have none this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Our second, aye. Yes, second. There you go, second, you'll not, second that one, aye. And we're adjourned, thank you.